What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you an update to ice barriers. That's right, ice barriers have been getting a lot of hype lately because obviously they received some brand new support in the brand new Battles of Legend. On top of that as well, the deck is incredibly powerful and it is basically a walking talking floodgate deck. It is still very kind of cool, and all of the new cards, specifically Mirror Mage, do facilitate brand new combos that really get everything going alongside the brand new boss monster of Lancia. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe. I'm going to repeat the short combo that I showed you previously, which was a 1.5 card combo, so you can see the basic level of what you want to be doing with this deck and what you can achieve. Now that's obviously going to be a Nibiru proof draw 4 combo, but on top of that as well, depending on the different types of extenders that you have, you'll be able to protect that combo or of course go down a different route. And ideally what you want to be trying to aim for is to get Lancia on the board, because this is going to allow you to spawn out your ice barrier floodgates from the deck as and when you see fit. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Diving headfirst into the main deck monsters and starting with the brand new card Mirror Mage of the Ice Barrier. So at the time of recording this, I picked this up and I picked up the other brand new secret rare, the Yugioh, for £15 for all 6 of them. Now I highly advise you go and pick this up. The most expensive card that I had when I was trying to pick this up was the Lancia. This was about £15, but the deck itself is really kind of cool, and I do expect that it will be able to still compete going forward. And a lot of people are not expecting ice barriers at this exact moment in time, so you can really catch them off guard and do some incredibly powerful things. So the Mirror Mage, what makes this deck tick now? So you get to tribute one other effect monster to special summon up to 3 ice barrier tokens that are level 1s with 0/0 attack. If you do increase this card's level by that number, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except water synchros, which is absolutely fine because by the time you make this, you would already have used your XYZ summons and your Link summons, which is absolutely fine. If it's sent to the graveyard by any means, so whether it goes as XYZ material, whether it's sent from deck to the grave, it doesn't matter as long as it hits the graveyard, you get to add one of your ice barrier cards that is banished or in your deck to the hand. So keep that in mind, it can get ashed. But the idea is this is going to allow you to get into your extenders in the form of stuff like speakers, or it can even get you into the form of a star type in the form of Revealer, depending on whether you've used your normal summon or not. Then onto the brand new one, Yugioh. So Yugioh, the swordsman of the Ice Barrier. While you control another Ice Barrier monster, you get to special summon it for free. Your opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters in the graveyard, and you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If you control an Ice Barrier monster, you get to special summon this card from the hand into defense position, and if it is normal or special, you get to special summon a level 5 or lower Ice Barrier monster from the hand or graveyard. So again, it's like a double extender, and like I said, each of them have pretty much technical mini kind of floodgate effects. But the idea is, as well, is this is a level 6 tuner, so it's going to be a lot easier to kind of get into everything you need to. And obviously this is a level 2 tuner, as well as being an aqua. So if you wanted to, you could just make Toad the hard way. Then the one card that didn't get a reprint and is probably just as expensive as the original structure deck is, of course, Revealer. Now, you can actually still get some Ice Barrier structure decks. I know my local store still have some in, so I'd much rather go and buy that, because then you can get all of the little one-offs that you might want to play, like your... wherever it already is, probably gone past them 3 or 4 times. Like your General Raiho that didn't get reprinted as well. And then of course stuff like your Warlock. And then it also gives you access to Speaker as well. So you pretty much have everything you need to. You'd only need to get the new one. So if you can find a place that still has the structure decks, grab them while you can. So the reason this card is so important is it allows you to have the effect to discard any other card you want to special summon an Ice Barrier tuner from the deck. It does lock you into special summoning monsters from water for the rest of the turn, but that's just part and part of it, as it is. If you would discard a card or send a card or cards from the hand to the graveyard to activate an Ice Barrier monster effect, you get to banish this card from the graveyard instead of one of those cards, which is also really nice. But the idea is your Revealer of the Ice Barrier will send your Hexer, and then while you control Ice Barrier monster, monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack and defense. And then during the main phase, you get to send a level 3 or lower Ice Barrier monster from the deck to the graveyard, so that's how you're going to be able to send your Mirror Mage. And then Mirror Mage's effect will trigger, because then that will allow you to add your Speaker. And Speaker has the ability that while you control another Ice Barrier monster, defense position monsters your opponent controls cannot change their battle position. So it's basically just like just a lockout, which is really kind of cool. And then on top of that, if you control an Ice Barrier monster, you get to special summon this card from the hand for free. If you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can banish this card from the graveyard to special summon an Ice Barrier token, so that's how you're going to be able to spawn tokens, which you'll see in the end of the video at the combo, and that's how you're going to be able to get into your Crocosaur and a Coral Dragon. And then it really does come down to the one-offs that you want to run. Most players are still using General Wayne, and the reason for this one is spells and traps sent from the field to your opponent's graveyard are banished instead. It's the only one that's kind of one-sided. All of the others are like both players must set their spells and traps before activating them, and then they can't be activated until the next turn. One of them is discard a Ice Barrier, and then neither player can activate them until the end of your next turn. So it is kind of like a pure lockout on both, whereas this one is really only affecting your opponent. On top of that as well is if you control a monster, if your opponent controls a monster and you control an Ice Barrier monster, you get to special on this card from the hand for free. And if it's normal or special, you get to add an Ice Barrier spell or trap from the deck to the hand. So this one's kind of like the most effective of all of them. When you're looking at the other alternatives, stuff like your General Ryo or your Warlock, I reckon you could probably play either or you can play both. But the idea is that Lancer can spawn these both out. The issue with Warlock is it's quite easy to be like destroyed, but while you control another Ice Barrier monster, both players must set spells and trap cards before activating them and cannot activate them until their next turn. So it means that they would then need to normal summon the monster, kill this card, or special summon a monster, kill this card, and then continue to play. And they still need to deal with your Lancier on the board as well. And then if you've pretty much set up either a Speaker you would summon out as the other card, or the General Wayne, or even the General Ryo, it's entirely up to you. So when your opponent's monster activates its effect on the field, they must discard a card or the effect is negated. So that's just where you're going to burn through their hand resource, especially if they've hand tracked you in the previous turn. So that's it for your Ice Barrier monsters. You can change these up to any of the other Floodgate Ice Barrier monsters, which is why I think it's probably relevant to get the Ice Barrier structure deck, because if you can still find it, because then you'll get all of these as one-offs, and they're only really ever going to be played as one-offs. Then, of course, we've got the one Ice Jade. Now, this one's just insane because it's just a free level 10, well, technically a discard into a level 10 Synchro monster, and you have loads of really kind of cool water level 10 Synchros now. So it becomes Ice Jade Cradle while equipped with an equip spell, pretty irrelevant. But you get to discard one other Ice Jade card or a water monster to special on this card from the hand, and then you get to special on an Ice Jade token, which is a level 3. While you control that token in the monster zone, the player who summoned it cannot special on monsters from the edge deck except waters, which is absolutely fine. But the idea is this plus a discard, as this being a level 7 tuner, just gives you an instant access to a level 10 Synchro water, and then you've got loads of cool level 10 Synchros that you're going to want to use and abuse, which is really cool. Then Swap Frog, so this is one of the casualties of this particular deck. These are now gone up to like £10 a copy as an Ultra, which is absolutely mental. But the idea is that this is going to facilitate the ability to send an Aqua from the deck to the grave, or technically, a level 2 water Aqua from the deck to the graveyard. And the fact that they just can't bouncing back, and as long as you've got water monsters to like discard, you can keep summoning it and go from there, is really kind of cool. And then being able to return it to the hand acts as your free discard fodder for your stuff like your Revealer, and then anything else that you might need to. So really kind of cool card. Hopefully, most players, if you're playing Ice Barriers, have already got these. You can play without it. It's not going to be as effective. But if you do want to play without it, another option you could look into is the Abyss Shark engine. But I can't imagine that this is going to be any cheaper. And this just acts as an additional extender. And then if you don't have Swap Frogs, you would have to take them out for more hand traps. And then you're going to be relying more on the Deep Sea Minstrel in order to kind of rip out hand traps. Now, the reason I quite like the Minstrel in this particular deck is it's a nice ability to discard this card on a water monster. You get to look at your opponent's hand and then banish a card from their hand face up. So it gives you full hand knowledge. And if you go, right, okay, well, my Revealer right now with my particular hand will lose to an Imperm, it will lose to a Veiler, it will lose to an Ash or something. You can look at your opponent's hand and go, okay, cool, I don't need to worry about anything. I'll get rid of that card, or right, I need to worry about that, let's get rid of that. So yes, it does cost you that discard in the hand, but that's where your Swap Frog comes in, because your Swap Frog can bait out hand traps because the ability to return it to the hand, and as long as you've got another water, go for it again. And that's why the draw 4 combo is so important, because you will be able to burn through your discards, and then you go, cool, I'll refresh that with 4 brand new cards. You don't have to play this card if you don't want to. Again, Abyss Shark is another alternative, or you can play in 3 more hand traps, you can play in Triple Tactic Talents, you can put in crossouts if you want to. It really is up to you. Moving on to the spell cards, I play 3 Medallion. I really want to get the 2 more of the alternative art, so bear with me on that one. Apologies for the mixing kind of artworks, but it's not a hard once per turn. You just get to add an Ice Barrier monster from the deck to the hand. So the fact that Revealer is so important, being able to get access to this is really, really important. So you've got 6 ways of getting to it, obviously the hard summons of it as well, and you've got other ways of being able to search it by sending your Mirror Mage from deck to grave as well. You've got your freezing chains for the Ice Barrier, so when this card is activated, you get to target a level 4 or lower Ice Barrier monster in the graveyard and special summon it. And then while you control 3 or more Ice Barrier monsters, which you can do if you go off of the back of the Lancier combo, monsters your opponent controls Ice Barrier monsters you control are unaffected by the activated effects of your opponent's monsters that were specialed from the extra deck. You can only activate 1 freezing chains per turn. And then the other one is the Wins Over the Ice Barrier. So this again is another one. I believe this got reprinted in Battles of Legend. I'm not too sure about this one, but even then these all come in the structure deck anyway. So you tribute any number of Ice Barrier monsters to special summon from the deck that many level 4 or lower Ice Barrier monsters with different names from each other. Now you have even more targets because obviously you have the Mirror Mage, really good success. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you get to banish this card from the graveyard to then target one of your Ice Barrier monsters that is banished or in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. So again, it gives you recyclability should you need to, and it just needs to tribute Ice Barrier monsters, so being able to tribute off the Ice Barrier tokens is very, very important. The one Called by the Grave, and then the one Frozen Domain. Like, you don't have to play this. I just like the idea that I can search this off of Wayne if I wanted to, and your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to the activation of your Ice Barrier monster effects, which is really important because that's kind of like a chain block without chain blocking them, which is really cool. And then if a monster or monsters is specialed from the extra deck except during a damage state, you get to return to the hand or shuffle into the deck one Ice Barrier monster you control, and then you can place one card from your field or either graveyard on the bottom of the deck. From the field, not your field, sorry. You can only use each effect once per turn, and then once per turn during your own phase, reveal 3 Ice Barrier monsters with different names in your extra deck, or destroy this card. Now, obviously, it means that you need to hold back your Ice Barrier monsters, but ideally just a one-off, being able to go bounce, bounce, and then go from there. Then for the hand traps, I've decided to go with triple Ash Blossom, triple Infinite Impermanence, and then I'm going with 2 Drolls. I think Droll is going to be incredibly important in the upcoming format. I feel that Droll is, especially with Fiendsmiths as well, once they officially hit the board, I feel you could arguably put this up to 3. Like I said, this could very easily be triple Tactic Talents if you wanted to. I just felt that this is definitely quite effective when I'm looking at the only deck that it doesn't do so well about at my local environment will be Ritual Beast, and that's only if they've opened up D-Shifter. If they haven't opened up D-Shifter, then Droll is actually massively damaging to most decks around there. Snake Eyes it can hurt, it can also hurt the Ice Barrier matchup. It can also hurt Yugioh slightly as well. So it's a card that I feel is going to get more and more prominent once we do get the Fiendsmiths, because I feel that everyone will be on Fiendsmiths, or those that can get hold of them will be. So it's definitely a card you want to be considering, and that's something you also might want to consider protecting against, and that's why I advise something like Crossout if you can find the space for it, and adapt it and go from there. So that's it for the entire main deck. Now moving on to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, currently I only own 1 of the Lancia. You would probably play 2 of this if you have access to 2, but I still feel you can play around with 1 if you only have 1. So this requires a Water Tuner, very easily done in this deck, and then 1 or more non-tuners. So once per chain, if your opponent special summons a monster or monsters except during a damage state, you get to special summon an Ice Barrier monster from your hand, deck, extra deck, or graveyard, and then you can change 1 attack position monster your opponent controls to defense. You can only use this effect with Lancia of the Ice Barrier twice per turn. If this face-up Synchro Summon card in your owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you get to special summon an Ice Barrier Synchro monster from your extra deck. It is treated as a Synchro Summon. So obviously the idea is if this leaves, you can spawn out your Trishula 0, or of course your normal Trishula, which is really kind of cool. So these are your main Synchros. But the idea is just for Lancia, you're going to get 2 from the deck, and the 2 from the deck you're probably going to want to look for would be something like your General, and then of course maybe something like this, to lock your opponent in position, or of course you'll go for something like a Warlock. You can go for Hexia if you feel that you need it. You can also go for your Yugioh as well. You've got loads of different options, and the idea is you're going to be looking at their secondary effects or their like lock effects, which is really important. Trishula is Trishula, and then obviously Trishula 0 is obviously an upgrade to Trish. Now the one that is annoyingly not an Ice Barrier monster, because it's just technically called Ice Dragon, but it is an Ice Barrier monster because it's called Brionac, is the Brionac, the Magical Ice Dragon. Why couldn't it be Brionac, the Magical Ice Barrier? Right? Would have been absolutely fine. So the reason I've got this in here is because I don't have the second Lancia. It's just one of them alternative options that I quite like the idea of. So if it is Synchro Summoned, you get to discard a card, then target 1 card on the field and return it to the hand. And then if this card is specialed from the graveyard, you get to discard 1 card, then target 1 card on the field and return it to the hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. Obviously, it felt wrong not having Brionac in here, but you do have the options to play the other Ice Barrier cards. Like there's the Tiger that is a cool option as well. You can play the original Brionac, so it really is up to you. Chen Ying, so again, this is another reason that this card is now £10 a copy. It's just an insanely powerful level 10 water monster that weakens your opponent's monsters, strengthens itself and your monsters, and then also has that ability to banish from the grave and banish from the field. Then you've got the Ice Jade Azreen. So again, this is just a really kind of cool level 10 that will allow you to kind of play around Kashtiras a little bit. It can be quite annoying for Kashtira matchups. So again, when you're looking yourself in the waters, you actually have loads of cool options to look into. Crocosaur, pretty standard on that one. White or a Whale, or Dragite. And then your Glacier, this is basically just the ability that each time another monster or monsters you control is destroyed by an opponent's attack or card effect, you burn your opponent for 600. Very nice. And then during the battle phase, when your opponent activates a card or effect while you control another monster, quick effect, negate that effect, and if you do, destroy that card. You can only use each effect once per turn. So this is one of them cards that if your opponent does not know what it does and decides not to read it for some ungodly reason, it can actually be very effective against Tenpai. Coral Dragon, pretty standard, discard pop, but more times than not, you just use it as a tuner to draw cards as well. And then your only non-synchros is the Coral Anime. This is the one that will cost you a little bit. I think it's only had 2 prints, Ultra and Secret. And then Bahamut Shark into Toad. And then the one Stealth Kragan. I really do like Kragan. It's kind of like if you could play, get away with Gozen, would be really kind of cool. So Rivalry, not so good because you bounce between like all the water types, so Sea Serpents, Aquas, Warriors, everything else. But definitely being able to go, okay, cool, put your opponent into waters and then they can't Promethean Princess you, they can't do anything that requires fires or anything that requires a specific attribute can be really important. And Stealth Kraken can just sit there going, nah, come at me, bro. So I do like the Stealth Kraken play, but you have flexibility should you want to. So that's it for the entire main deck and the extra deck. I'm now going to show you the 1.5 card combo. So you can see the basic level of where you want to go. And this is going to be your nib-proof draw. And the idea is that from the remaining 4 cards that you will draw throughout that combo, those can then be extenders to add Lanciers to the board. It could be extenders to add more protection to the board if you want to as well. They can just be hand traps. And being able to sit on a Crocosaur, which is going to be buffed up in a tap, plus a totally awesome, and a hand of discards can be really kind of effective. So we'll be back in a second. So the 1.5 card combo is pretty basic. It can be access to Revealer through either Medallion or Hard Open It, and then any discard. Keeping in mind that you're obviously going to have 3 more cards in your hand, so that's how your complete hand is going to look. So what we're going to do here is you're going to start off by normal summoning the Revealer. This will then use its effect to discard any random card from your hand. You get to choose, and in doing so you get to special a tuner from the deck, being the Hexer. Hex's effect will now trigger to send the Mirror Mage from the deck to the graveyard, and in doing so you'll trigger the Mirror Mage's effect to add you the Speaker. You then use Speaker's effect to special summon it down, and then of course you've got your adapted level on the Hexer. What you're going to want to do here to protect you from Nib, as this is your currently 3rd summon, you're going to overlay both of these and go into Bahamut Shark. You can use Bahamut Shark's effect, and this will then get you into a totally awesome, so you are now protected from Nibiru. Now what we're going to do is you want to use Shark plus the Hexer. You're going to link these 2 together and you're going to go into your Coral Anime. Now keep in mind you haven't used the Mirror Mage's on field effect, so you're not locked from making XYZs and link summons as of yet, but you will be right now, because you're now going to use the ability of the Coral Anime, and this is going to allow you to bring back your Ice Barrier. You'll then use Mirror Mage's effect to tribute off the Coral, and this will then spawn you 3 Ice Barrier tokens, so 1, 2, and 3. And then this will be adapted to a level 5 tuner. You'll then use itself plus 1 token, and this will then get you into a Coral Dragon. And then you'll use Speaker's effect in the graveyard, because you control an Ice Barrier monster in the form of the token, to banish it from the graveyard and spawn you back a 3rd token. You'll then use token 1, 2, 3, and Coral, and this will then let you get into the Crocosaur. You'll then go Chain Link 1 Crocosaur, Chain Link 2 Coral, because obviously you want to make sure that if they're going to try and ash anything, they're going to ash a draw 1, not a draw 3. So you're then going to draw 4 brand new cards, plus the original 3 cards that you have. So you currently have a full hand. You're nib protected, plus you've got the Crocosaur at the moment will be up by 1, 2, 3, 3,500. So it's a 4,500 mini boss monster. So that could really deal some damage, and it has the ability as a quick effect to discard 2 and pop. Now obviously keep in mind, if you did have any extenders in your hand as you were building up this board, if you do have something like a Swap Frog, you can go crazy ham. If you have something like a Yugioh, again, you can go ham even more, because you're going to have Ice Barriers in the graveyard. You can bring them back and you can start making your other synchro plays. You can add to the board as you see fit. But the idea is that once you go down this particular route of play, as long as you can get totally awesome, you're going to be nib protected before your 5th summon, if you need to worry about nib at your environment. If you don't need to worry about nib at that environment until game 2 and you think it's going to be sided in, well, heck, go wild. Don't even worry about nib. Try and build up the strongest board you can do, which usually ends on something along the lines of a Lancier and then a Toad after the 5th summon. But then the idea is that Lancier will then be able to spawn 2 from the deck, and you're going to want to be looking at your mini lock in the form of stuff like your General Wayne, which will lock your opponent down a little bit, and then depending on what else you want to kind of put on the board, you could also access something like your Warlock. The issue with Warlock is the card that you're going to search for Wayne will be ill-effective, but the idea is that even when they get rid of your Lancier can then just spawn into any of your other big synchros, which can then just cause disruption on the board. So Trish, banish, or of course your Trish 0, destroy. So in a very, very good position depending on which way you want to take it. Anyway, that is it for the entire profile and of course the combo. If you do have any questions at all, by all means, please let me know in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them for you. It's definitely a deck that I like the idea of. I feel that at this exact moment in time, and this might come back to bite me, the cards are relatively cheap. Like once you get hold of Lancia, you're in a good position. And like I said, you can play it with only one Lancia. You probably just want two for a bit more of a grind game. You just need to keep that in mind. And then you're going to be in a better position to pick up the Ice Barrier structure decks rather than buying Revealer outright. But again, I'm hoping that if you wanted to play Ice Barriers, you would have had access to these cards pretty early on anyway. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe and of course, happy dueling.